In today's Psytrance scene, many producers start with the same fundamental blocks. A technically perfect kick in the bass. These kicks are extremely punchy, with strong attack in the mids and on the highs, supported with that sharp and strong hi-hat on heavily processed bass lines that align perfectly in phase. So these elements sound powerful and they are difficult to create, so naturally producers gravitate toward them. But when we all start from the exact same technical foundation, we also start the exact same emotional foundation at the beginning of our tracks. So the opening of the track, that low-end energy and that first emotional impressions all become identical. This is one of the reasons why so many new Psytrance tracks feel similar. So from the comments on my previous two videos, we can already identify several reasons for the lack of creativity in the scene. So I'll address them one by one in the future videos, but this one will focus specifically on the technical perfection and creative tools. So there's a problem hidden behind this perfection. It comes with a cost. So when every bass note is retrigged perfectly with the exact same phase, transient and envelope, the low end becomes static. It doesn't breathe. So every kick hit feels the same, every bass note feels the same. Technically it is flawless, but creatively it becomes very dull and predictable. So from the comments on my previous two videos, we can already identify several reasons for the lack of creativity on our scene. So I'll address them one by one in the future videos, but this one focuses specifically on a technical perfection and creative tools. So there's a problem hidden behind this perfection. It comes with a cost. So when every bass note, for example, is retrigged perfectly with the exact same phase position, transient and envelope, the low end becomes static. It doesn't breathe. Also, every kick hit feels the same, every bass note feels the same. So technically this is flawless, but creatively it becomes dull and predictable. If we do the opposite, if we let the bass note start from the random phase, if the voice do not retrigger perfectly, if we use more than one oscillator voice, or if we design the bassline using unconventional tools, suddenly the low end becomes alive. The sound changes from note to note, it feels organic and human. It's less technically perfect, but far more interesting. So here is what I want to play to you in this track. In this track I created the kick, which sounds like this. So at the first here, it doesn't sound perfect, and honestly it's far from the industry standards of today and the trance today. It does not have that punch, it sounds a bit dull, it sounds a little bit like it's unfinished or kinda destroyed, so there's this type of the lo-fi feeling on it. But if I bring the attack, just a small tiny correction of it, if I bring the attack at the beginning, we get something that it is kind of closer to what we are using in most tracks of the today. And if I listen to this kick on solo, I will definitely choose this one with the more punch in the mids and the highs. But if I play it together with the bass line, and if I bring back this attack, now we can suddenly hear the complete change of the emotion of the track. So only the kick in the bass. If I move to the bass line, we all know Serum, Silent, whatsoever, all the modern tools where we can very specifically position the phase so that every note is triggered perfectly, that we control the phase position of the bass line that aligns with the kick, and that we can control everything. But what if I just remove this technical perspective completely aside, and if I don't or ignore the technical perspective itself? So I use the repro, the UHAB plugin, which is the emulation of the Prophet 5 synth, and I still didn't find the option to retrig it. I don't even want to do it. So what I did, I was just going through several of the factory presets, and I found the bassline that does sound, every note sounds different. I did put a little bit of the processing, like the EQ, but what I did also is that I added a timeless, the delay, which I removed the low cut and the high cut, and I just created ping pong effect that each note is being delayed as well. That way, I also added a little bit more of the modulation on it, so that way the bassline, I believe, is changing and somehow it breathes. Now, that first note of the bassline, which is very forbidden thing to do in the area where the kick and bass are generally summing together, it means that each time the different note is triggered, that in one position is going to cancel, in one it might sum, in one it might be in between, so we cannot control it. But this way, from the creative perspective, I believe that each hit of the kick is also becoming different, which is generally from the creative side, it's kind of something that's very good to have and welcome. So in general, if I ignore my technical perspective, if I ignore all the craziness that we went through, engineering and controlling everything in between, like, I really like what I'm hearing. So and I can clearly hear that the phase is changing and that it's one moment it's like a bigger, smaller. But from the other side, I kind of like it. It brings this aliveness in the mix as well. So if I now add a very modern kick, something that's by the industry standards of today, let's say this one, and if I play this kick and I will just A/B these two kicks and just to create a different feeling. So if we compare these two kicks, we can definitely say that the complete emotion of the track is changing. So now, this raises the question, are we sacrificing creativity in order to achieve technical perfection? And this doesn't apply only to the kick and the bass. We are living in a time where everything becomes a trend instantly. So producers use the same sounds, the same presets, the same must-have VSTs, and when thousands of people use the same tools with the same workflow, even with the small variations, the results naturally end up sounding familiar. So Serum 2 is a great example. It is very good and maybe the best designed tool of today, but we're gonna end up using the same sit. We're gonna end up, even if the 1,000 people are using the same, we're gonna end up having similar results. But when we change the tools, our decisions changes as well. So back in the days, producers worked with a widely variety of hardware and early plugins. So nothing was perfect and not many artists had the same instruments. So small differences in tools created a huge differences in sound and creative decisions. So that diversity is one of the reasons older Psytrance feels so rich and varied. Coming from the plugin era myself, I remember the tools like Tone 2 Filter Bank, a filter plus delay plugin that could do a crazy resonant feedback and unique color. So recently I tested one of my new tracks using the only old VST instruments I used 15 years ago. Even just loading the presets, the sound instantly had the character and attitude of that era. Yes, the sound quality technically decreased because of the lo-fi and noisy nature of these tools, but the character goes through the roof. And that leads to another important question. Do we need to sacrifice technical perfection to bring back creativity into our sound design? Today, everything is clean, precise, aligned, corrected, polished, and in that process, we are losing the personality that comes from the imperfections. One of the most effective ways to bring variety back to Psytrance is by simply using different tools, different synths, different sample sources, different workflows. When the tools changes, our decision changes as well. So when our decision changes, the music becomes different. The point is not to reject the technical quality, but to recognize the moment when the perfection stops helping and starts limiting your creativity.